Hey, how's it going, everybody? It is power ranking time. We do these every 2 weeks after we see all of the opens in the event close out. It gives us results that are tangible with objective facts of who won and who didn't over the course of a split. So we have officially wrapped up Open 4 across all of our regions. And with that, we're going to give you guys our top 10 with an honorable mention of who I think is the best in RLCS currently. I try to hard reset, unlike the Rocket League rank system, in between every split. I try to kind of come in with a fresh mentality of what is and what isn't, but it's difficult to do, especially for Open 4 post, because there's only one event of this split so far. So we do have to lean a little bit. We do have our rankings from Birmingham. We made sure to leave out any teams that didn't go to that event and kind of base things off of that. As a reminder, kind of where I place my teams and where I think they can go. Your top 2 are going to be in the grand finals. Your top 4 is your semis, so on and so forth. So I try to think about, hey, if I'm looking at the order of these teams, realistically, they'll be fighting in the 2-2 round. Winners, I would like to assume, are going to win that and move forward. But it all depends on who the matchup is. Depends on who their head-to-head is. There's some teams in the quarterfinal that I would see losing to these teams. But that is the beauty of Rocket League. I am a firm believer that once you make top 8, if you're feeling good on the day, if you're just mentally locked in, you can go and make a run, because that is how good and how close the competition is. It is definitely on a case-by-case, day-by-day moment. So with that in mind, we're going to start with our last team here as an honorable mention, and I think it's pretty easy to understand why they're an honorable mention. It is going to be Gentlemates Alpine. This is a team that I just need to see more of, but already with Eugen, they look like such a better roster. They still have their highs, they still have their lows. But a lot of this with Alpine is still TBD. I'm not exactly sure how I feel about them, but I have seen potential in them. There's been a lot of comparisons to when Zen came in with Vitality. Hey, this is a guy who wasn't hitting all the mechanical stuff. He wasn't doing all the ones-centric type things. He was playing calm, he was playing patient, and he did a good job of making sure that things moved forward in a way that they're going to sustain offense. And Eugen's kind of doing the same thing. He's not doing all the flashy, crazy, whatever. But what is happening is Juicy and Seiko look like they're finally able to play Rocket League again. It's pretty interesting what it can do, and this is why we love Rocket League, I think, at the high level. One player can make a massive impact for teams, and as we've seen in EU, historically, it is better to make a roster change than to try to build and adapt and adjust to what you currently have. So, going in at number 10, this is a team that kept that mentality for a long time, and it's finally a time to change, and it's been for the better. It is Gen G. Gen G as a team, similar regards, they instantaneously look better, like almost immediately. Gentlemates, would I have them beating Gen G right now? I don't know. I think that's a fun matchup to consider. But with Gen G, you're talking 2/3 of that roster is staying the same. I think they finally have the training weights off. It looks like they're finally unleashed. And Justin, with some confidence, is able to provide a Gen G that sustains offense for the first time in what feels like forever. And it's not just through demos. I need to see it again this weekend, though. I don't know what Gen G we're going to get this weekend. Are we going to get another Gen G that has the ability to go back consistent top 4 and do what they do? Because this is now 2 back-to-back grand final appearances for Gen G in opens. Albeit very stretched, very different circumstances. You've got a motivated Justin who looks like he's actually enjoying playing the game again. While on this, you've got everybody talking about hogs and like cranking their hogs. So shout outs to Itachi. But Gen G is still, to me, a team that I'm unsure about, but I like seeing what they've been doing. They're winning the matches in front of them that are important. And sure, you could put in consideration with like Space Station or something, I think. But Space Station has had really good peaks, but their highs and lows, it's been a bit of a roller coaster. So I have some concerns there. Up next and dropping a little bit is going to be Twisted Minds. That is not the right color, but it's close enough. Let's see if it's this one. Yeah, it's that one. Twisted Minds, to me, is a team that I think does have a lot of promise and a lot of potential. But it's really tough to gauge when you just lose to Falcons in the grand finals. You're playing them in close series. We've seen that before. This is a team, to me, that I think will either 100% find themselves in the 2-2 round, winning or losing. Like, there is no in between. I don't see them ever going 1-3. I think they're too talented. I think they've been playing quite well. They're consistently going to the top. But Twisted Minds, to me, it's tough for me to put my finger on where exactly they would end up. and it's going to come down to the matchup that they get in the quarterfinal or in that last round of Swiss. Up next, and I'm trying to go through these a little bit quicker. I usually take way too long on these, but we're trying to go a little bit quicker. Is another European team. It's going to be GK. That is not the right tab. With GK, I'm keeping them the exact same because with GK, I have this kind of conversation and this theory about where and when these teams play. There has been this ongoing trend between GK and Dignitas where they look really, really good in Swiss, or they kind of look iffy in Swiss. They get their shit together when it comes to the upper side, and one of them falters. Like, one of them will lose, the other one will win because that's what has to happen. And then the other team gets the revenge in the lowers. And that's been the same thing with like Furia and Vitality at majors. Whoever wins in Swiss will lose in the bracket. And I feel like you're going to continue to see that. I would like to say that Dignitas to me has a little bit higher peak. When Dignitas is on, when Jack and Jurius are doing their thing, they look incredible. They look like they can go and take games and wins off of KC. GK has shown that they can do that as well, but that just felt like, hey, this was like plot armor, anime main character type shit. And GK to me usually regresses, I would say, throughout the year. We had a little bit of a conversation with that on stream earlier. Twitch.tv/Lawler if you want to come hang out with us before we make these lists and kind of talk through it. But I do think there is something to be said about GK where I don't know what it is, and maybe this year's different, and I would like for it to be different because I do enjoy the team. There is something about GK that I just can't quite put my confidence in, but when backs against the wall, GK does tend to show up. Dignitas, I would say, doesn't, which is kind of difficult. The objective matter of the fact is that when all the pressure was on the line, when it was the biggest moment, Dignitas did win. So this one's tough. I think these are pretty interchangeable. I think you can swap these either way. It's going to go down to who's playing on the day, who's better on the day. And we've seen both. We've seen Dignitas look really, really good. We've seen GK look really good. We've seen them both look pretty rough. It's very, very difficult for me to place these two. Probably the one I had the hardest most with, but Dignitas did get the win at the major. They did win in uppers. They lost in lowers. And I forget what the exact result was, but it was pretty close. So that's a tough one. I think that one's debatable for sure. Number 6. This one might shock some of you, but I think it's pretty standard. It's Furia. Everybody's talking about Team Secret. The reality is Furia is going to majors. They're competing at a pretty high level, albeit losing to the competition that's definitely ahead of them. And then they finally conceded to Secret once out of four times. And it still was a super close series where Furia was talking about there was lag issues and ping issues, whether it's excuses or not, I don't know. But like Furia is still like Team Secret until you guys can do it when it matters most on the main stage. I'm going to write it off. I'm sorry. Majors to me are going to have too much weight. It's what actually matters. At this point, with Team Secret winning, it basically makes Sam a 2-region race, like a 2-team race for the region. Like, no one else has a chance to get points up. So, like, Furia and Secret, we'll see you guys again at the major. That's when we'll answer this question. But historically, it's always going to be Furia. Furia is the one team that can compete internationally, and everybody else falls below. So, makes it kind of difficult. Number 5, we're going to go back to Mina, and it's kind of a tough one because Falcons to me just hasn't impressed lately. They're still winning their games. They're still showing up. I still think when they're on, they're one of the most threatening teams because they are super consistent. But my opinion of Falcons is they're kind of a one trick. Like, I don't see them make the adjustments I would like them to. When they come in, they're consistent. Their pressure is on. They look dominant. But as soon as you match their pace, you match their intensity, and you don't succumb to that pressure, you're going to win. Once you figure out what they're doing, you can do it. The difficulty about playing a team like Falcons is just they're relentless with it. They do not falter, but I've been seeing them falter lately, which is the weird thing. Online, they haven't impressed me as much. They're losing games when normally they would be like, yep, every regional, we're going to go 3-0. We're going to dominate the bracket. We're going to dominate the grand finals, and it's over. Credit to that with Twisted Minds putting up fights, and I think it's actually showing some people on how to go about it. And it's also giving more competition outside of the ones that don't with others. But like, I think Falcons, still a very good team, still a very stable team. But I have a very difficult time of putting them in the top 4. I can't do it anymore. I say this, even though they went to 7 against NRG at the major, that energy was not the same peak and polish that it was. But Falcons to me is a very good team, a very competitive team, but I see them losing out to some of these others. I would like to say that if it came down to this head-to-head and these two playing each other, I honestly don't know who wins, and I love that thought. It's Ultimates. Let's be clear. Ultimates has done some things that I very much so enjoy. They obviously had a really good run at the major, but when they're still conceding to the teams within their own region, I have questions about what their level of consistency is going to be. While I do think Ultimates is a team that should finally be in consideration of like, this is a solid team. You have two teams in both regions, your top two EU, your top two in NA, and then there is a massive gap, I think, with the rest of their region. Which is why I sprinkle in some of the international competition before we get to the rest. But to me, if I'm picking 9 out of 10 times, Energy's beating Ultimates. I just don't see it. I just don't see it. I'm glad they went to 7. I'm glad they put up a fight. But the matter of the fact is that Energy is still winning. And that's who I have. Up next, we've got Energy. Right above them. A lot of people are going to get mad about this. But I'm going to continue to preach and hold on to my high horse as long as I can. To me, Energy is a team that I do think is good. But we've also seen them struggle against teams that facilitate and control offense a little bit better. There's this big narrative about how they're playing defensively. And I wouldn't even say it's that. Energy is still playing offense very, very well. It's just when teams are forcing them to play defense because they are controlling the pace of the game, it almost feels like Energy is playing not to lose rather than playing to win, which I know is not the case. That is definitely not their intention. Sathy and those guys are locked in. Like they're putting in the time. But it does feel like the season started with a little bit of complacency. They got smacked in the mouth, and now it's like, hey, time to get back and lock in. The matter of the fact, and you guys have been hearing me talk about this, I objectively think EU is better. I think the teams, even in their faltering, even in their struggles, I think Vitality is playing a much closer series against K-Corp now. And it's not that K-Corp has gotten worse, it's just Vitality is a little bit more familiar. I think that ironing, sharpening iron type mentality is going to make them better and better. But the difficulty about power rankings in this regard, if we view this in a semi-final type match mentality, if K-Corp plays Ultimates, yeah, K-Corp in the finals. If K-Corp plays Energy, sure, definitely in the finals. If Vitality plays Ultimates, I would also pick Vitality. If Vitality plays Energy, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I don't know who would win that. And I think that's what makes difficulty of this is it is not just a 1-to-1. I can't say objectively that Vitality is just better than NRG, but I think if I'm having them play against all the rest of the pool of teams, I would pick Vitality to win more of them than I would NRG at the current moment, which is why I have Vitality above. That, and I could be completely wrong about this, but again, that's the point of my power rankings, is this is my list, my beliefs, who I think is going to be there. But even when these two played, Vitality got away with a lot. Farah talked about this a lot on Chalked. I highly recommend going and listening to pretty much anything Farah does, because he's a very intelligent guy. You see a lot of people referencing it in my chat as well, right below me. But I do feel Energy's peaks are something that should be appreciated. I don't doubt that. Top 3 in the world is not a slight. But if I'm saying objectively, who do I want to run into in the tournament? I personally feel a little bit more confident about Energy right now than I do playing against Vitality. And then if we really want to talk about K-Corp, there's not really much to say. You've got 3 players who are objectively at the top of their game. You have Vatira, who is the worst player on the team. Atau is peaking, doing whatever he wants. You've got, in my opinion, the best player in the world in Drawley, who just continues to get better and better. His facilitation of the game, his control, his understanding of when to play slow, fast, whatever to sustain is unbelievable. Like, the kid is someday, I think, going to pass up Monkey Moon, and it might be sooner than later. If this K-Corp team keeps doing what they're doing, what are you going to do? Like, a buddy of mine jokes, if you've ever seen Dune, he is Lisan al-Drawli. Like, he is that guy. It's insane. He's so good. Either way, that is what I've got for my power rankings. I know you guys are all going to disagree. There's going to be a lot of people who are trying to say these are better, these are worse. But at the end of the day, these could change. I firmly believe that top 8s are open for discussion. I think if any of these teams feel good, like Furia, if they just hit their stride, they're going to keep going. and they're going to win, and they can definitely push into the top 4. Same thing applies to Dignitas. We've seen it with GK, even Twisted Mind. Like, it is so tough to objectively rate any of these or provide an opinion because I can switch these up. I can definitely make arguments and justifications for why I have others the other way. But that's not what we're here about. We're trying to be bold. We try to stick to our opinion. And right now, my opinion, EU on top. And I think that's pretty easy considering in the last how many years, how many has NA won? Not a lot. Like, the last time NA was winning stuff was when they were 2/3 European. So, like, I don't know. That's what I got for my power rankings. Hopefully we see some magic this weekend. Later today when this video comes out, you guys will be watching Open 5 for North America. I'm looking forward to answering some of the questions about, hey, what is Gen G going to be looking like? Is Space Station still able to provide that level? What are we going to get? Either way, that's what I got for today's video. If you guys enjoy it, as always, like, subscribe, turn on comments, hit me up down below. Let me know what you guys feel. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.